Yo, it is Guido coming at you with a tactics talk. I've got a replay analysis for the Elusive Man from Clan Reddit. He put a post in the forum looking for a different opinion on some of his gameplay. Pretty good player. Has a bunch of his stuff uploaded on VB Addict, so he gave a link to that. I jumped in there and I grabbed 4 T44 games played in a row. A couple losses, a couple wins. And I'm going to take a look at this and we'll go through and talk about some of the things Elusive Man can do, potentially. Now, he's a pretty good player, so what you're going to find is some good technical skills as far as maneuvering his tank, understanding hold down, minimizing his exposure, things like that. We're going to talk a lot about positioning and reading the battle. So he came back to the game, he said a couple months ago, so that kind of thing is going to be a little bit rusty. And we'll probably come back pretty quickly. But let's take a look for Elusive Man here, who is one of the forum regulars, and see if there's some things we can do, or maybe a couple angles he hasn't thought about as we throw out. So this can be a little more difficult with the better players. Good players, a lot of times I'm working with the brand new to lower skill players, and it's very easy to dig out some of the mistakes that they're making. It's much harder when the player's actually pretty good, but you can tell when the thought process is just a little slower than he wants to be, and we'll discuss that as well. So he has platooned with, we have Patient Zero, the Elusive Man, and Canteen, all from Reddit. Pretty good players. They're bottom tier on this one, and they are on Tundra. Spawned into the north, and he is headed over to the hill, which I think is a good idea. That's critical terrain. They're all in fairly fast tanks. We got a guard, a T-44, and a 4190. But what happens here sort of interests me, actually, because they don't, looks like initially they're going to the same place, and it'll be interesting if Elusive Man remembers what the discussion was. I feel like maybe they were talking about going to the hill, but then you see the 4190 peel off. There's a Centurion 7-1 with Elusive Man, and then the guard, inexplicably, really to me, to be quite honest, is going to go kind of hang out and camp up on the back hill back there. Now, the reason I bring all this up is I think if they'd all three pushed up onto the hill, they probably could have got up there without too many hit points being lost and grabbed that critical terrain. And that is one of those things, the synergy of a platoon working together, and now they're completely split up. Now, while the guard can support Elusive Man if he gets pushed, and of course the fast scout is doing his scout thing and can probably flex back if need be, if they're not all in the general same vicinity working together, I really think you are not leveraging as much of the platoon as you could. Now, that being said, platoons are platoons. Some people want to do what they want to do. Some very good players can split up all day long and not have a problem. So I just throw that out there, Elusive Man. I'm not saying that that's necessarily your gameplay, but I think if all three of you rushed up this hill, yes, you probably would have lost some hit points, but you'd have taken it and put yourself in a much better position up here. So let's take a look at what Elusive Man does. He does a smart thing here, looking for a shot, just peeks in and right away trades very well, gets a shot into the T-44 and backs up. The only thing I don't like about this spot at all, obviously, is 3 artillery. Because pretty soon, one of them's going to notice that you're hanging out right here, and this is the known spot where they can hit you with artillery. And really unknown why T-44 tries to side scrape against you. At least he was doing that and not just poking out. And 2 good trades, so now we're at 513. We haven't lost any hit points, but we're not looking really great on this hill. There's quite a bit of power on the enemy. Quite a bit of power on the enemy team, and there's our friend showing up with the artillery. And I think right now you're starting to think this is probably not going our way right here. You're not going to be able to stay right here, and this is probably also a poor decision, not something you got to watch out for. He was coming up basically hold down. Yes, he gave you some side armor, but it was a very small shot, and he had a perfect view on the entirety of your tank. So probably a bad decision right there on trade. And now Elusive Man is getting out of here, which I agree with. It's probably not a sustainable spot, and I think you're lucky you didn't eat another shot. And off we go. All right, so we got to this point. We've taken some hits, probably at least one we should not have. Artillery, what can you do? It happens. And we've got a little bit of damage, but we're kind of running around here, and we're going to come around this corner, dive down into the middle. And so I'll ask you, just think about this. Exactly what was the plan right here? I can see that what you're doing is a general reposition, but it's very difficult right now because of the number of guns in the game. Plus, you've given up the hill. So you've got guys on your back up on the hill, you're kind of driving in on other tanks, so it's not a great place to be, really. Not a great place to be, really. Where else could you have gone? I don't know. Would have been hard to get up to your buddy, the guard up there, because they own the hill. I think your best bet was to sit on the back of the hill and do your best to try to hold these guys off, and maybe your E100 and Conqueror have a better day over there. But as it is, you're going to drive right up on the cap, which you get a shot on it on the artillery, but now everyone in the world knows you're there. You look at him, and you're thinking, hey, maybe I'll be able to get a kill on this, and guess what happens? Wham, wham, and there's that guy behind you. So that's one of those things that when you came up into that position, you probably knew in the back of your mind that, yeah, this is kind of dangerous. I'm going to try to exploit this opening in the middle. But the problem with that thought is not that it's a bad thought. It's the time of the battle that you had the thought and tried to execute it. There's just too many guns in the game. They owned the high ground. You really weren't going to be able to do much right there. The only possible real way you would have been able to do a whole bunch there was to come up over top and keep trucking. It looks like your 4190 Bud is back there doing God's work against the artillery there. So maybe if you kept moving, might have been a little more survivable. And then together, the two of you in the backfield could have really caused some chaos. It helped maybe break open the game a little bit. But as it is, a little bit timid coming up in the middle. That's where I go back to what was the discussion. Because if you had voice comms, there may have been a discussion about, hey, let's try to split the middle of this thing. You and me, 91 GF, will get her done. Because it's not going very well over on the east side. And those are all good thoughts. So if that was the plan, then you probably should have kept trucking. If that wasn't the plan, you were just kind of on a pickup game, not a really great position to go to because you're putting enemies to the front of you and enemies to the side and behind you. All right, let's move on to the second one. The second one, he's back with the same platoon, fighting some different tanks. He's still in a T-44 for elusive. We've got a CDA 105 and a Hawk 12. Let me throw one more thing out about platoons that is a bit of a pet peeve for me. And it's not a hard and fast rule, but when you drive so many different kinds of tanks that are, the play style is quite different, that can be difficult to leverage. And in fact, your Hawk goes over to the other side there, quote unquote, air quotes at this point, where light tanks go. Which brings me up to the next thing about platoons. When they are mismatched, there is no reason why you can't all go together. The Hawk over here actually would have helped you guys out quite a bit, because he can get the spots on the guys hanging out on that hill back behind the T-26 E5, the enemy one right there on the east side. He has a better chance of seeing those guys when they fire, lighting them up, and letting you push those guys back. So he's going where a Hawk would typically go, but he's not leveraging his capability with yours. So that's a dead horse. We'll just let that go. Like I said, platoons will play as platoons play. Now, this was an interesting decision for me. I know about this spot, but I never go there. Why? Because I'm always up forward trying to help push. The thing about a medium for me is you get up there and you're looking for an opportunity to get in and around them. You want to be close enough that you can pop out and shoot, which you are, but I prefer to be a little closer. What was interesting there, take a look at that replay. You actually shot the harder to hit guy. There was a guy off to the left you probably didn't notice. So watch out for the tunnel vision on things. You do this a couple times in these videos or in these replays where I think you had a better shot and you don't take that better shot. And that's one of those things that will come back as you start playing again with time and prioritizing which shot's actually the easier shot. Put a shot down in there, and not necessarily just easier. And there was another one there, that T-44 was, there he is. This guy right here was probably a better shot than shooting at the turret of a 4202. And then if you notice, you actually got the damage on him, but there was another guy further to the left who was actually poked out a little bit more. All right, you have a pretty good crowd heavy-wise up there. You've chosen this position, and that's fine. And you're doing some good work on these guys, and now they're pushing up, but look how damaged all of them are. They're all basically one-shots, and you've got two heavies right there, and everyone is just sort of poking and prodding. I'd have said, hey, patient zero, let's roll. Move forward, get up here, and look to leverage the quickness of the reload and the speed of the T-44 to somehow get around there and break this thing open. There is a concern because there are TDs up on that big hill, a Scorpion being one of them there. But your heavies are up there, they've got their attention, and I'd have moved forward right now. Now eventually you're going to get there, but I suspect it's one of those things where you haven't played for a while, so you're being a little bit more cautious. And sometimes it has to do with that was unfortunate, how the game's been going. I wouldn't have stayed in there. As soon as I shot that T-44, I'd have backed out. You ate a shot you didn't need to take right there. And like I was saying, it's one of those timing things and situational awareness things that will come as you play a little bit more and get that kind of timing down. And this is why I don't really particularly like this spot here. The CDA is in a great spot, but as far as a medium sitting back here poking and prodding, it's just kind of ineffectual, to be quite honest. I mean, you got 553 and you're keeping them honest as far as turning around that corner. All that's good stuff. But if you get up there and start using your maneuverability, time the shots, a couple of them shoot, you push around the corner, next thing you know the 34B and the 100.01 are following you up. The T-44 comes down from the top and you own these guys. And that's where we're getting to now, but I think you're about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later than you could have been taking these guys out. This is going to hurt right here. Ouch. And a miss. So we get 2 hits. Again, another example of trying to move. And what blew my mind here, and you didn't have any control of, is that this 100.01 decides not to just wade into these guys and start waxing him. He takes a couple hits, the rest of you push in, clean up the near deads, kind of like it's happening, but much sooner than this. And I think you could have gone right there. Of course, you are nursing 273 hit points at this point, so a little bit of care is important. Good job on the 34B not completely ramming you to death right there. And now we're going to come up and start cleaning these guys up. You know you got some TDs in the back right here. I want everybody to kind of watch what he does with his maneuver. He takes that shot, covers himself up with this, and now he's going to work really nicely being hold down right here on this upslope and just sliding out and taking shots right here. This is a really nice job. Oh man, I really thought he was going to shoot you, but good job there. You actually get some, oh, I thought you got some assists. Looks like you thought you tracked him, but it doesn't show assists. Never mind. The guy with the hit points pushes in. Hopefully there's comms to that effect right there, so that's nice. And the last spotted, looks like it's the scout that's missing, so he's run off somewhere. And we're going to move across. This is just gobbling up hit points at this point. Nothing really else to see right there. So I guess for this one, my suggestion there would be to be a little bit more aggressive and to kind of understand what's going on the flank and maybe helping break it open. There were a lot of tanks there, so it would have been pretty easy to come around a corner and have 3 or 4 of them hit you and erase you right there. But I think if you'd have been a little bit up more forward, you'd have had a little bit better capability to kind of push in there and get things going. So not terrible. Obviously, you guys will win the game, so that's good. Let's move on to the next one. On the third one, here's a good one. Your top tier. This is good. 357 top tier. Spawned into the south spawn on Muravanka, going to the Magic Forest. What used to be the Magic Forest. Everybody remember that? Way back 3, 4, maybe more years ago. How amazing this forest was for camo bush sniping TDs. It was a bit of a nightmare. A lot less cover, but still enough. And he's going to come up here, and this is exactly what he should do with a medium. Come in here, start looking for shots. I'd have been much more careful about poking over there once I got lit. I'd have made myself scarce. But you come in here and looking for shots and miss. We got a 12T. So they've got 3. You'd lost a 304, which has lost his mind. Unknown why on earth he would do that. Nice job with the hold down. That's unfortunate, the miss on the 40T. You got a Skoda behind you. That's another Skoda off to your left. So you're all right now. Everyone's kind of hanging out. Fight is going on, and you've got the rest of your tanks sort of over by the cap, but not really pushing in the cap. I kind of like that, actually. They're all sort of trying to figure out how to get these guys in the forest out of there. It's a nice shot on the 12T as he went by. Coming over here and looking for shots. And right about here, if you hadn't noticed already, you should have started to get worried. So taking a look at the mini-map, you've got a passive Scorpion G, a 3045, kind of hanging out in those buildings, and then a TD down below. But they've got a lot of fast-firing, fast-moving tanks hanging out over here, to include the Lorraine, which is probably reloading. You take a shot there, unfortunately, from the BIS. And then the Cromwell starts to push you, and this is where I think you realize, holy cow. So you were about 30 seconds, 40 seconds or so late on getting out of there, and this is where you realize it. And the next mistake you make is, as you're running back, keeping your turret towards the enemy and firing, you actually go up high right here instead of going around this corner down low and then covering up. Because once you get up on this open flat, you give everybody else in the world shots on you right there. So you needed to stay down low, go around this, and skedaddle out of there. So the instinct to get out was good. That's a map knowledge and currency of gameplay kind of thing right there that it's just going to come. But you can see that you've just really overexposed yourself to everything that they've got. And I think you realize it here, and you're probably like, ah, crud. And now everyone and their dog is shooting you. They're even ignoring the 3045 just to make sure they can get rid of the running away T-44 top tier tank. And down you go. So good initial positioning, some decent fighting right there. Unlucky on the bushed up P-43 that got a shot on you. And then the Comet got aggressive, which is exactly what he needed to do. He could see the advantage that was building right there. And he pushes in and just breaks this thing open. And just a late realization on your part that you need to skedaddle and get out of there. I don't know if you skedaddling earlier was going to save this game, but it may have saved you for a bit and a little bit more damage, which is all part of it. Let's move on to the fourth. So the fourth one, your bottom tier again. Unfortunately, the platoon is gone, and we are solo. We're on proc, spawned into the south spawn, going up to the hill, which I think is a pretty good place for a T-44 to go. Think about going on the 5-6 line, though. In this case, there's only one artillery. Not a bad spot to get side shots. I'll spit it out here in a minute. First day with the new mouth, I guess. Side shots into the guys hang out in the back edge. But not a bad spot. Coming up here, using these bushes, and you're going to stop. So I'm of 2 minds on this. The IS-3 drowns. Fantastic. Where's the water? Oh, right there. It's the only water on the entire map. Oh, that's not true. There's some across there, isn't there? All right, so the IS-3 starts off things badly at that point. I'm of 2 minds right here. I like the flat little tank like this, although its turret isn't quite strong enough like the T-54 or its older brothers is. But if you get up in this flat right here, yes, there's an artillery, but you can also keep these guys lit on the backside and let the guys down here take shots. Unfortunately, you don't get enough guys down here, really, and we'll see that happen. And you're going to hang out in this bush. That's my second favorite thing to do, but this is, again, a pretty passive type of position here. You're just hoping that they poke up and over and give you some spotting damage. Now look what we got going on here. We got the T-57, the 59 Patton, the 103, and a Conway. That is 5. 1/3 of your tanks is going to go up here and sit on the backside of this hill without anybody being up forward. And this is one of those cases there, Elusive Man, where I'll just take the bull by the horns and say, you know what, if we all sit here with only one T-25 pilot sitting on the 5-6, and the rest of our team sits in the southwest corner with nobody forward, this game is over. And pretty much this game is over anyway, so why not just get up here and start working spotting damage on these guys? You're going to count on your artillery and maybe this T-25 pilot, but if you start lighting them, maybe one of these clowns or this 430U moron comes over here and starts taking shots and helping you out. And because you have such a massive firing line behind you, you should keep them from popping up and over. Now they're sensing victory here. They really feel like they've got you. You can tell because they're poking up and over. They're not taking any hits from down below. That 257, and somebody's actually going to join him, which kind of cracks me up when we see him here, have no fear. There's nobody other than artillery really that's going to threaten them. You can see that the other side on the west is getting pushed into. There goes your Scorpion. And things are grim. So now the question becomes, all right, we got here. Guido says Guido would have went further up into the bush and done spotting, but probably of limited effect because I don't have enough guys in the 5-6. That is all a bummer. What do I do next? And this is the guy I was talking about. There's some mouse. And I watch you. It looks like you're thinking about tracking them a couple times, but then you have to ask yourself exactly why. Potentially the 110E4 might have shots on him. If you're going to track him, I'd have started earlier. Let him not get as close to you, but as he trundles in here, just blasting away. I can almost see the steam coming out of your ears right now as you decide, what am I supposed to do with this? Oh, it's a good question. You know what I would have done? I'd have done that, and then I'd have backed off, and I'd have gone around this pit right here, and I'd have tried to drive up around behind and either squeeze in the background and find a TD to shoot or something, but I probably wouldn't have just sat right here. And I think maybe you got a little frustrated because we'll watch how this series goes. You take a hit from down below on the 5-6 line, and then you pretty much just ignore it, looking to maybe get one shot. And this is the frustrating time of a 3-5-7 when you're bottom tier and your team's absolutely getting rolled up again into that crazy angle of the 2-5-7, just not going to pen. going to gold. It's at this point you probably have to know you're going to take a hit from the side if you continue hanging out right here, looking for that guy shooting at you. You got shots coming in from every direction. There's no great answers on this one, Elusive. I know you know that. There's nothing I'm going to tell you that you could have done here that probably would have saved this game in any way, shape, or form. There are a couple things that we've already talked about that might have got you some more spotting damage, might have even got you a little more damage here and there, but we're just getting rocked at this point, and down we go. But I included this one because exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just have to figure out where you can go somewhere else to be effective. And I caution people when I say that, because sometimes what they take from that is you spend the whole game running from one flank to the other, looking for that perfect entry into the fight, and that's not necessarily it. You got to get to a flank and try to win it, but if things just completely go pear-shaped like this, go somewhere else and try to find some hit points. Just go somewhere else and try to find some hit points to get, because you know you're just going to get run over by the Maus and the 257, and you're getting shot from the side, and I'm quite certain you were very frustrated with this game at this point. That's all I got, man. Those 4 games just kind of picked at random, all played, I think, in a row, actually, or at least very closely together. And what I would say overall is, as far as the technical skills of how you fight the tanks, you pretty much got that solid, nice and solid. We can always get better. All of us can get better at doing that. But it's just some of the decision making it's there, but it seems to be maybe a little bit slow, in a couple instances maybe a little bit misguided, potentially. But that all looks like stuff which is fine-tuning and tweaking. So if you're saying, hey, I'm not playing as well, it's probably just a slump, or a slump / I've come back recently. Keep doing what you're doing and try to fine-tune the timing of your decisions. And just watch out for repositions like the first one, where you kind of drive up the middle and put guns all around you. That one wasn't really a great idea. But as far as your initial positions and what you're doing, you're on track. Just keep up with it, man. That's all I got. I hope this helped. A couple different opinions in there. Go ahead and leave down in the comments if you have any other questions or comments, criticisms, that kind of thing. Maybe clarifications on some of the things I said that you may have actually not been doing, or some things you were thinking that I actually did not cover. That always helps people who are watching these to get a different opinion, or at least to clarify why you might have been doing something. And it's very possible I'm completely wrong on a couple things about what you were doing or why. And if you can clarify it or bring a good point up, then go ahead and throw it out there. All right, guys, that's all I got for Elusive Man. Welcome back to the game, and we will see you.